Hey guys, I'm top music attorney, Miss KRYSTLE, and today we're going to be reacting to Alicia Keys. She was on The Breakfast Club and she did a long interview, but this particular segment that we're reacting to is where she got into the nitty-gritty about her music career and talking about things like percentages and how really she took ownership of her career. So I guess without further ado, let's get right into it.
You were talking about earlier that, management, when they even brought you to J Record, they never got it to you. Was it one of those things where management didn't want you to do certain things and they wanted to keep you this way or opposed to going this way? Was that one of those things?
I don't know what happens with management, man, to be honest. I mean, I think that maybe in some ways people want to protect you, I think it's mostly that. People want to protect your energy and protect how many people are kind of approaching you and things like that. So I get it. But I think that there's also sometimes a mind state that goes into that people who work with you sometimes feel like they know better than you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that I've really come to terms with, realizing that, you trust people and you want them to help you out, but you can't just give over your power like that. You have to be understanding that the choices that I make have to be mine. It can't be yours.
Mm-hmm. So the question, it went by real quick, but it was, Empire State of Mind, this opportunity to collaborate with Jay-Z didn't get to Alicia Keys. And they didn't really go into why that had happened, whether it had been a decision by management not to kind of give her the opportunity. In the way she responded, it kind of felt like that's what the case was, that the opportunity had been presented and then they decided not to give it to her. And so she goes, now, I was just realizing that people sometimes think they know better than you. And obviously, I think she disagrees with that.
So we make them together. So I think it's a little bit of that. And I don't know if in that record particularly that's what happened, or if there was another feeling about it or whatever. I think it just was one of those situations. But could you imagine no Empire? Mm-hmm. Damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'd have been fucked up.
Now, I remember back in the day, there were some things about management, right, that people were talking about and speculating on when you had first signed a deal, because you got signed at an early age.
Right, 14.
And then I remember hearing that they were charging you some crazy percentage, and then you had to get rid of management. What was the real story behind that?
Really? I was really with the same management for really a long time, and I don't think that it was some crazy percentage. To be honest, the commissions in the business is just fucked. It's they're too high. And then you have a management commission, you have a business management commission, you have a lawyer commission, and you add all those commissions up and you end up with less than all of them.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's not even all of them, right? So she goes, the manager's going to be taking a percentage of your earnings, right? So she uses this word commission. It's the percentage that your team's getting. So, your manager usually is getting 15 to 20%. Your attorney might be getting a couple of points, a couple of percentages. Your agent, right? Agents can get anywhere from 10 to 15%. And then sometimes there are other people who are also taking a percentage. So what happens is that even when you have an artist that is successful, that artist may not be actually getting very much money whatsoever, because the other big piece here, because we're talking about team, is the record label. The record label is this whole other animal, this whole other beast that is usually taking the lion's share of the artist's earnings. So in a best case scenario, you are an artist like Alicia Keys and you are making a decent living, but there's so many people that are going to take a piece of the pie, and that's what she's talking about. And she goes, at the end of the day, I'm left with less than anyone else who got paid on my team.
And so I think that it's not that they were doing something that wasn't standard. The problem is that industry standard is incorrect. And so as a young person, you don't really know those things. And so you just do what you think you're supposed to do. And then finally, 5 years down the line, when I was looking at my bottom line and my, management, business managers and lawyers were coming back with more money, and I was on the road for 2 years straight, I was like, what's happening? So again, it's just an education process. I don't think it was some major drama or thing that they were stealing from me. It was more
well, and also a learning curve, because she goes, I got my first record deal when I was 14. So, as a kid, for how many years she's in the industry, and then at some point when she became in charge of her career as an adult, how long was that period of time? Until she was looking at how the checks are getting cut and what she's making, what she's not making, to where she finally decides. And I love that she said this too. She goes, industry standard is this. Right? So these people are getting paid these percentages because that's just how the music business works. But I didn't realize that you need to come in and say no. And so she's so matter of fact and independent, and I don't even care that this is industry standard. That's not how I'm going to manage my music career.
Stealing from me, it was more that this is what it usually is. And
did you manage to, how do you adjust that?
Yeah, you just got to tell you, I'm not paying you that shit. Yeah, like I'm not, like that's not happening. I get it that that's what the standard is, but what has to happen for me is I need to have a long-term, I need to be able to, this needs to be a long-term thing for me, not a short-term thing. So you reapproach them and you say, I'm comfortable doing this. I want to do hourly. I don't want to do percentages. I want to monitor it. I want to see it. And you just got to get on top of your shit. So once I figured out what to do, I could actually execute it. But at first you're in there like, what am I doing?
So I kind of preach this all day, all night to my artists. And I say, even, if you decide to sign with a record label, that's cool. But this is something you should always keep in mind, especially if you stay independent. Don't think that you always got to pay people a percentage of what you make. So what I mean by this is I had an independent artist and, she's very successful and she's done really well for herself. And I kind of gave her this suggestion. I said, instead of bringing on like an administrative manager or an operations manager, someone to help you manage your entire operation, instead of giving them a percentage of what you're doing, just pay them an hourly. Pay them as what's called a contractor. So they're not an employee, they're just doing some work for you and they get paid for what they actually do rather than just getting a piece of everything that happens in your project. Because sometimes, a manager, an operations manager might not have done anything for a certain revenue that's coming in, and a light bulb definitely went off and was just like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about this. So that same light bulb went off for Alicia Keys at some point. She goes, no, I'm going to renegotiate all my deals. I love you. Continue working with me, but if you want to kind of do this, I'm going to pay you hourly and I'm not just going to give you a percentage of everything that I make. And going back to that piece about, I just love Alicia Keys' confidence and her just saying kind of fuck it, because, at the end of the day, if she comes back and says, cool, I want to work with you, but I'm only going to pay you hourly and this is how I'm going to structure my business, you better believe that she's going to get pushback to that. Right? Because let's say a manager comes back and says, no, I deserve my 20% because that's industry standard. That's just how the music business is. And so she's probably having to kind of stick to her guns and say, no, this is how I'm going to run my business, because as an artist, every single entertainer has to make that decision at some point to be a business person. Otherwise, the music industry is going to control you. What other people think, what other people's opinions are, will control you. So that's why you have to kind of take that control back. And it sounds like Alicia did do that early on in her career, which is a great thing.
So once I got past that, that's all. I think it was just that to clear it up.
It never seemed like you had trouble gaining creative control and freedom throughout your whole career. Even in the early days, they let you just do you?
I have to say, they definitely I always had control of my music for sure. Mm-hmm. And I do think my first management was really instrumental on that. They were really about like me being at the head of my table. So they knew that I was playing, they knew I was producing, they knew I was writing. They knew this was my sonic, my sound, and it was really about like how to get the best out of it. And we tried. At the beginning, we tried to do like all of the things where all the other producers do the thing. It just didn't work because it didn't sound like me. It wasn't New York enough. It wasn't like the vibe enough. So I think it definitely, I've always had control of my sound. That's one thing I really appreciate.
But it was the marketing and promotions that in your first deal they couldn't get a grasp on, you think?
Well, so again, the other piece being, we just talked about the business side of this, right? So you're negotiating the deals, you're kind of putting your foot down on what you're willing to do and kind of finding your voice, not just as an artist and business person, but also creatively, right? So she's talking about on the creative side of things, we did kind of try playing the game. We tried playing the game in the beginning with the producers and kind of what we were supposed to do for the songs, but she goes, it wasn't kind of my authentic self. And so that was something that eventually had to be tweaked, and obviously it paid off. Alicia Keys is amazing. I'm such a fan of her just as a creative, but also as a entrepreneur and business person who decided to take control of her career. And this is something that I promote through this channel. I have a book for independent artists. You can check that out, link down in the description. But get your contracts, right? There are these templates that you need to stay legally protected, because the first thing is, hey, great, I have a manager, I have an agent, I have a publicist. But then you have to negotiate the deal. You have to be strong, you have to be confident in what you're willing to do, because a lot of the times everyone's going to be putting pressure on you from all sides, right? It's your label saying that this is how you have to run your career to be successful. You have a hit song. Well, now you got to do this to stay relevant. And so now it's going to be your team telling you what visual you need to have. How do you need to look? The creative is going to get impacted. And then when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of those contracts, those are the things that will impact your career for years to come, because these contracts are never for, hey, a 1-week deal, a 2-week deal. These are going to be contracts that impact your career for years. And so it's really important that, number one, you know what the contracts say. Number two, you trust the people you're going to be doing business with. Number three, you get an attorney to protect your legal rights. And number four, you always have that mindset as a business person that you're going to do what's right for your career, and you're not going to allow kind of the influence of other people to impact your ultimate decision making, because it will ultimately impact your music career. So yeah, guys, take control of your careers. You have to become a boss, and sometimes that's easier said than done. It can be scary, but Alicia Keys is talking about it, and she really is in charge of her career because she was willing to take those steps early on. And as an added bonus, I do have a free contracts course that you can go through. I'll be sure to link that as well in the description of this video, and just teaching you the most common kind of secrets of what these contracts are made of, how to negotiate them like a pro, and how to really be able to take things up a notch when it comes to you doing contracts as an artist, a record label owner, or basically anyone in between. I'm going to get out of here, but thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm top music attorney, Miss Crystal. Bye, guys.